Welcome to the Mental Advantage Podcast. Whether you're an athlete trying to perform at your best when it counts the most, a coach or business leader trying to get more out of your team, or someone looking for more personal growth, this is the place for you. This podcast is your map to guide you to the right mindset, systems, and strategies you need to become the best version of yourself. And now, here's John Cullen and Brandon Allen.
All right, listeners, I feel like we should start this show with a warning that if you're driving down the road, you have your kids with you, you usually listen to the Mental Advantage podcast as you're taking them to practice, whatever the case may be. Fair warning. We have who we both agreed to be a legend with us tonight in Coach Ralph Ciabattari, who was our coach at the College of Charleston. But Coach has spent a lot of years in the dugout, Brandon, and he's going to let it fly with no filter.
No, for sure. And, I would say maybe a little more than PG-13, right. But definitely not,
Yeah, it's not like we remembered in the dugout.
Oh, no. He was definitely on his best behavior, but, it's interesting. I think for both of us, this was an episode that we were both really looking forward to, because I think, both of us looking back at our college years with such fond memories and gratitude of an opportunity to play at a school that, was a Division I school with a Division I schedule. And, but also being a part of something that has grown and I think that was all because of Ralph Ciabattari. And
no question.
And I think the listeners are going to hear the genuine love that he has for his players. It's 20 plus years later, and we still call him Coach. Yep. That dude still calls me Moose, and I hadn't heard that since I left. So it's great to talk.
It takes you back. It's like the fountain of youth talking to him, because you flash back to. I know he was giving me grief about when he first got on. I had a hat on. He was like, "Oh, I barely recognized you." And I said, "Well, I thought this would help you recognize me better, is having a hat on, because every time I was staring at you, it was with a hat on." And he gave me a hard time and said I might have changed a little bit since those days. So, but no, I think it is, as you said, it's one of those things we were really looking forward to. And, being part of a program like the College of Charleston, like you said, it's definitely developed into one of the top programs, and it's been really cool to watch that happen. But Coach also was at Charleston Southern, which was, at the time he was there, Charleston Baptist. So like we talked to him about on the show, there's a couple programs there in the Charleston, South Carolina area that definitely have the Ralph Ciabattari stamp on them.
There's no doubt. And, it makes me feel good, and I'm proud of Coach. He's up for a nomination to the Charleston Hall of Fame. I think it's, certainly well-deserved. And there's so much, we talk about this all the time on the podcast. And that's one thing, listeners, this is not going to be a clinical podcast where we're getting deep into the mental piece. But I think what you'll hear is he was ahead of his time in terms of creating culture. Yeah. And he was ahead of his time in terms of, and you say it all the time about letting them know you care before you get into, coaching them. And they what is it that you say, John?
They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right. So, and he was a guy that you always knew cared, and right, wrong, or indifferent, he always had your back. He always took your side. And at the end of the game, win, lose, or draw, he was going to come up and hug you and tell you, thank you for competing today. And can't say enough good stuff about this guy. Love him. So thankful for the opportunity that he provided me. And look, I mean, he was the guy that somehow got me and you together. So
that's it.
I'm very appreciative of that too. So
there's a lot that we owe him. And, it's one of those things that, as Brandon mentions, it's that family and all of the undercurrents, even though it's not going to be a lot of systems and strategies, it's like you said, culture, it's that undercurrent of family throughout the whole thing and doing it the right way, working hard. I mean, he mentions a lot of the different things because, here he is starting out a program that had not been even a baseball program since 1948. And he's having to build this and started out and had a strategy in place. He knew he was wanting to go get certain players from certain parts of the country because he was able to sell them. And you'll hear him tell some really funny stories about just what a good job he did in selling them on coming to Charleston, South Carolina. Those are really classic. And I'm telling you right now, when you're hearing these stories, you might have the tendency to be like, "Oh my God, that's too hard to believe." Trust me,
it is 100% real. Yes. It is 100% real, and there is no doubt about it. And
he's one of a kind.
One of a kind, and so thankful that I got to play for him, and super appreciative of all the direction and the love that he always shared and you bring it up in the podcast at a very difficult time for a lot of athletes, right?
Yeah.
And here's one last thing before, and I'll be quiet.
Sure.
And let's get to the interview. But the one thing that Coach did before his time that doesn't ever probably get any credit at all. He always lets you know you weren't the baseball player.
Right.
You were always who you were, and you happened to play baseball.
Yep.
And we talked to some of the professionals out there at Mississippi State, Nick Clemson, and the other schools that always go, hey, one of the challenges that our student athletes have is understanding they're not always the person that's on the field, right? That they're more than the athlete. And he always made you feel that way.
Yeah. Well said. Well, without further ado, here's Ralph Ciabattari. All right, welcome to the Mental Advantage Podcast. Brandon, man, oh man, do we have an electric guest for them tonight.
Yes,
I am so excited. And I really, no offense to any of the guests that we've had, but I cannot tell you how excited I am for this one. I didn't sleep that much last night. It was like, let's just hurry up and get to the time because we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Ralph Ciabattari, who was our college baseball coach and someone that we love, is just one of the best coaches that you could have ever played for. Because as we've said before, you never doubted for a second that he loved and cared for you as a person, first and foremost, and then, of course, as a player. But Coach, welcome to the show.
Welcome
We're so glad to have you,
Coach.
Oh man, this is a and I mean this. This is a real treat for me to be able to talk to both of you because both of y'all were two of my favorites, and y'all know that.
Yeah.
And like I've said before in the past, I've been blessed in my 24 years of coaching. I can't think of one, not even one that turned out bad. Now, at the time I was coaching them, I thought they always turned out bad.
You were wondering about all of them, right?
Yeah, but it's just amazing. Over the years, a lot of them keep in contact, and I talk to them. The only thing that pisses me off is that they tell me how fucking old they are.
So,
I stopped. I nipped that right in the butt. I go, listen, don't call me again unless you're still 20 years old.
That's right. That's right. It should stay that way, right? I mean, everybody, it's just everything freezes in time. Well,
you
Coach,
guys tell me you got kids and everything. That means I'm dead.
Well, look, and I'll
You're
say
far
this.
from that.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think to your point, the fact that you've had such a good track record as far as the players that have played for you says a lot about how you're recruited, right? But also the fact that, it goes back to what we talk about all the time on this show is, the leaders that let you know how much they care before, anything else. That's going to be, I mean, you were like a father figure to so many players coming through your program.
Well, the way I looked at it, John and Moose, is like this. I felt that when I recruited a kid and their parents trusted me and permitted me to have them under my wing, I always looked at it as it was a special jewel that the parents have, and they're putting it in my care. So I'm going to treat that jewel as if it was mine, and I always tried my best to have you guys over to the house and feed you. Like I said, I told Moose this, John. If you looked in the NC2A rule book and you saw they would have a picture of me and say, "Don't do what this guy did."
Hey, Coach, I don't know that they were looking for you, but the statute of limitations, I guess, is out.
I was getting ready to ask Coach. I didn't know you had an NCAA rule book.
No. That's above my pay grade.
Hey, Otto German wasn't looking our way at all.
No. I tell you what, he was a great guy, and it still is a great guy. But I like I said, I didn't believe in all those NC2A rules.
I think we could have used you at the NCAA offices over the years to start to shed some light on what it's like to take care of the player, and look at them,
especially in the non-revenue sports, and in baseball, back then was not a real big revenue sport, and so taking a kid home and feeding them a meal was against the rules. And I said, fuck that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, look, it's been, you and Miss Gina both have always been so good to all the players there. Like you say, whether it was meals or, I mean, heck, I can remember, but just even giving back to the community. I mean, I remember one of my fondest memories was the Christmas tree sale, when we would do that. Yeah. That was one of the things and that was all those little things about just giving back and helping out and just always finding a way to pay it back, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was my belief that was all part of it. That had to be part of it. And like I said, you guys have gone on and have all become very successful, and that's my claim to fame.
Yeah, no, that's well said.
Knowing that you guys turned out like y'all did, I can rest in peace.
Oh gosh, you used to be able to do more than that. I mean, I look back at our time, Coach, and I can say there was probably one time that Coach was ever mad at me, right? And it was when I broke my nose playing basketball.
Yes. Yes.
And I remember.
See, like I said, fuck basketball.
And right. And I remember, Coach. I remember working out, John, and I had the black eyes and the whole thing, and Foxhall, who for the listeners, is a friend of ours and a teammate that ended up, working with Coach and under Coach for a while, and goes out and helps Mississippi State win their first ever national championship this year in baseball, and it was their first ever national championship in anything.
That was huge, and he's one, Brandon Scott. He's one that has never, ever, ever forgotten me. He calls and makes sure that I'm okay. And when they came into Charleston to play the Citadel, because Chris, played the Citadel, so they came in, and Fox made sure I came down there, and gives me a Mississippi State shirt and a hat.
That's awesome.
And Monty does the same thing at Clemson.
But I remember Fox looking over me as I'm working out, and if I remember right, I'm doing something, kind of laying down. That Mark McCowan, our strength and conditioning coach, and Fox has this giant grin on his face, and he just says, "Hey, nice black eyes," and he goes, "Coach wants to see you as soon as you're done." And I thought, well, this isn't going to go well.
No.
And it didn't.
And it didn't.
And it shouldn't have.
And it shouldn't have. No, I was completely in the wrong.
You guys always wanted to play that intramural basketball. I don't know why. Not one of you could dunk. So I don't. I never could figure that out.
That's hilarious. Well, Brandon brought it up, Coach, and we might as well talk about it. I mean, over the years, you've had a lot of not just college coaches like, Monty and Fox and Ryan Mao, but you've had lots of high school coaches.
Oh,
and, people have gone on. What's that been like for you? I mean, that's got to be pretty rewarding when you see these guys kind of follow in your shoes.
Absolutely. And it's just a blessing when I see one of my guys that's coaching on the high school level, and even some that are coaching like with the Canes and on the travel ball teams and all. It really gives me a sense of worth, guys. It really does.
Well, it shows you are a good influence on them. And I know just in the fact that Fox keeps up with you, Monty keeps up with you. Let me ask you this question. When did you first realize you were wanting to get into coaching? I mean, you grew up in Burgettstown, PA.
I swear to God, I had no clue that I would ever end up doing this. I'll tell you how it all came about. Well, I played at Baptist under
Bussell.
under Coach Bill Bussell. And Coach was having problems with his legs and all this, having some physical problems. And the AD, God bless his, rest his soul, by both of them were passed, Howard Bagwell. He was the AD, and he always liked me. And after I graduated, I was in graduate school at the College of Charleston, getting my master's in public administration. And Coach called me up, Coach Bagwell, the AD called me up one day and says, "Hey, listen, would you like to, could you come out and help Coach Bussell, because he's really not being able to get around?" And I talked it over with Miss Gina, and then I talked to Coach, and I told him, listen, I'll do it for 1 year until you can find somebody else. Well, Coach turned me loose, and I went and I started recruiting all these kids from Pennsylvania, from West Virginia, because it was hard to get a lot of the, and I got a lot of good local kids, but I had to go up north. Well, that's a story too. That's one of my recruiting things where I used to tell everybody you could walk to the beach.
Charleston Baptist. It's a little bit of a hike.
That's how I got into it. After that first year, and after I had recruited all these guys, I said, "Well, I'll do it for one more," and then it just snowballed, and so I got Coach Bussell and Coach Bagwell to blame for it.
Recruiting story.
Oh my God, I recruited this guy young man named Ivan McBride, played for me at Baptist, from Erie, Pennsylvania. Okay, drafted by, he was really good. He was drafted by Cleveland. Anyway, I'm recruiting him, and he hasn't been to Baptist College, so he don't fucking know where it's at. So I tell him, I go, listen, hey, Ivan, you come down here, man, you can walk to the beach. He signs with me. He signs with me without even seeing the campus.
Yeah, sight unseen.
Okay, he comes down. He comes down to the school, and he don't know. I'm sitting up in my press box. That's where my office was. I'm looking out the window, and I see him walking with a beach towel around his neck and sunglasses on. And he's walking. He walked from Baptist College to the Northwoods Mall. And he finally stopped and asked somebody, how much farther is it to the beach?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So he's walking back, and I'm sitting there going, shit, man, I'm going to lose him. And he's a two-way player, and all this and that. He comes walking right up to my office and looks me straight in the face and said, Coach, you got me. When I stood up and gave him a big hug, big kiss, and he has done extremely well. He's living in North Carolina now.
He can walk to the beach from his house.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
he's got a place on the beach.
And every time, no matter what goes on, every time they talk about Coach Ciabattari, the only fucking thing they remember is how I told all those kids from up north that they could walk to the beach.
Well, Coach, I remember you telling me once when I was helping out coaching there that the short time is you said that we had a conversation one time about all the Pennsylvania and West Virginia boys, and you were saying, I always go after those guys because they're still hungry for baseball. They haven't played so much baseball like so they're wanting to be, they want to get down there.
Oh yeah. I mean, they thought, coming south, got better weather, you're going to play more ball. Right? Yeah. That was always a big draw for me.
Yep.
And God knows I used that to, parlay into bringing some great players down.
Oh, it's funny. There was such a small world. Is that one of my high school American Legion coaches in West Virginia was Steve Hayes, who actually was a pitcher for you at Charleston Baptist.
Left-handed pitcher, man.
Left-handed pitcher. He was good, real good. Yeah.
He was real fucking good.
Yeah, he was good. But I remember, just him being at Charleston Baptist because, of course, he's a local guy. And we were like, oh, wow, Steve made it out, so to speak, right? Like he's somewhere different. And that was always a cool thing. So,
Steve was a good player, man.
Hey, so Coach, how often did you use the hey, listen, guys, because here was my recruiting pitch. Hey, Brandon, why don't you? They just so happen to have orientation going on. Why don't you go to the gym? I'm going to talk to your parents about the schedule. I'm going to talk to your parents about the money. You go to the gym, and we'll see you in about an hour. Well, I walk into the gym, and it was literally me in a gym full of young college women.
Girls.
Mm-hmm. And I walked back, and I remember looking at Coach, and I was like, well, that was a pretty good trick. No other school's done that. And he said, oh, did I not mention it's 7-to-1 ratio of women to men? It's just young at the school.
Moose, I did this early on at the College of Charleston. One day I was pissed off, and they were moaning, how all those gnats were and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I lined them all up, and I said, okay, how many of you had a date this weekend? About half the team put their hands up. And I said, for the rest of you that didn't have a date, grab a bat and you're going to run for the rest of the practice because you ain't worth a shit. If you can't get a date at the College of Charleston when it's 11-1, you can't play for me.
That's hilarious.
I was crazy.
So it's funny. You start out, and just for the listeners, so you had that run at Charleston Southern, where I think from 83 to 88, and then in 1991, and I don't know when this conversation probably started to take place between you and the College of Charleston, but they're like, hey, we're going to be ready to start a baseball program for the first time since 1948. Like, how did that all come about? When did they start that conversation with you?
Well, it was a very, very, very delicate situation because at the time the college really didn't want to take anybody from another local college.
Oh, okay.
But through the back door, they had interest, and I had interest, and I got the blessing from Coach Bagwell, my AD, and once he gave me that, then I pursued it head on.
Yeah. Was your interest, Coach, had to do with the fact of just location? I mean, you can't beat it, right? I mean, you're right in the middle of the city.
You finally could walk to the beach.
Yeah, you finally could go
instead of Coach changing his recruiting, he finally found the school that he could do it with.
Yeah, I was trying to cover my ass, man. But and the aspect of being able to start a new program.
That's really cool.
A lot of people don't get that opportunity to start it from the ground up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was one of the main draws.
How was that when it came to recruiting? Like, what was that like when you're telling that, high school senior, hey, come to the College of Charleston? We had last year. Well, actually, we didn't have a team last year. Like, how did you sell that?
Well, it was kind of tricky, but the way I sold it was, listen, we're not going to have the prettiest or the best ballpark. We're not going to have all the fancy things, but if you want to play, and if you want to play right away, come to the College of Charleston. Yeah. And I always told the parents that I will stick with your child, good or bad.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Yep.
What the listeners don't probably know, Coach, is this is back in a time where, to your point, early playing time was not something that kids got.
Yeah, maybe when you were a junior.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you were going to pay.
Usually you had to wait. You had to sit because you had to wait.
Yeah.
But that was a big enticement to get kids to come, knowing that they were going to get in the lineup. Well, Brandon and John, you all know, like the hair offs and
kids,
those kids, Robbie, they all played 4 years and didn't miss a lick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you got some package deals in there, right? I mean, you got Veneman and Lopez. You got the Atlanta boys. I mean, a lot of those guys had known each other, so you would get like 4 or 5 at a time.
Yeah. Then we had a good connection with college, junior college too.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
and got a couple of real good pitches out of there. But it was like Tony Schufo used to say, if you get Coach Ciabattari in the house, the kid's going to go to College of Charleston.
No question about it. I remember my recruiting was, I was playing in summer league. I just finished up at Garrett and was playing in the summer league down there, and was having a great summer. And Richard Frazier was on my team.
Sure.
And Richard Frazier comes to you and says, "Hey, we got a guy on our team that's not only tearing it up, but he's not. Yeah, but nobody's talking to him really." And you were like, next thing I know, you're at the game, and we're having a conversation, and it was one of those things. But this is what has always impressed me about
John. Just to me finish up here. Not only did I get you because I started that summer league.
Yes.
I started at Summer League because I needed
which was really smart, by the way. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I did. I got you out of there.
Yeah.
I got Fox out of there.
Oh, that's right.
I got Benji Kennedy out of there.
That was like a pipeline.
Heck yeah. I wasn't stupid.
Smarter, not harder.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, but here's the great thing about it, Coach, is that even, and this is what the listeners don't understand, probably may not be aware of, is when you start the program at the College of Charleston, some people might think, oh, okay, he's going to go and find some just easy schools to play or whatever. South Carolina still on the schedule. Florida State still on the schedule. Georgia Tech. I mean, you just dove right in.
No, we jumped right in.
And the conference was really good at the time.
That TAC conference with FIU, Central Florida, Stetson.
Yeah.
And we competed. Yeah,
we absolutely competed.
We competed.
No, it was an amazing run there, just with the fact that, and, Brandon and I talk all the time about the fact that, when we look back at the college, the games on the field, of course, we have the stories of Florida State and the upset down there, but in beating South Carolina, I mean, and just your time there, I mean, you had wins over North Carolina State, Michigan State, Boston College, Seton Hall. I mean, we're just talking about the ones when we were there, but the cool thing about it was all the off the field stuff. It was all of the bus trips and
the spring break, walking into Shoney's and Coach is sitting there and he's like, hey, don't forget now, we're going to Ryan's in 4 hours.
That's right.
Hey, Coach fed us now. Listen,
hey, I tell you what, we might not have had a lot of good equipment, but we ate well.
We ate like kings, Coach.
Kings.
That's it.
Yeah. All the time.
That was important to me.
Well, and we had Russ, the bus driver.
Russ take care of us. Russ, oh my God.
And hey, Coach, and then Lovzola's, right? Every time we started heading down 95.
Every time. I get homesick for that place.
Oh, I'm telling you.
It was good.
You and me both. Man. I've been on 95 a couple times coming through there. I forget what exit it is. I should know it by heart, but
36.
36. I'll remember that now because every time I drive through there, I'm always like, I wonder if that place is still open and they're still, serving up some great pizza.
Oh man, it was the best.
They had a great connection there because we would pull in and they would have, they would just already, they loved us. I mean, it was like we ate like kings.
Yeah, man. They took us in as if like they adopted us.
Yeah. They rolled out the red carpet. Well, Coach, what are some of the things you most remember about those first couple years that stick out to you? Just as far as
one of the, well, there's so many, but this one always stuck with me. We're playing in attack, and FIU has to come up and play us in a 3-game series. Okay.
Yep.
And you know how good they were.
Yeah.
Danny Price was the coach. All right. So the night before we played first game, I went out and got about 14 dozen of bananas. Peeled the bananas, threw the bananas away, took the banana peels and put it underneath their bench in the dugout. So here comes FIU into play. And they're kind of playing. Those gnats were all over them. All over the ass.
And Danny
comes up to me and goes, Coach, what are all those things going flying around my dugout? I said, oh, well, that's just part of the sandy soil. And he goes, how comes they're not underneath your dugout? I said, well, because we use skin so soft.
That's it.
Not because the 14 banana peels stuck in the blocks.
Yeah, don't look under the bench.
Hey, that's by hilarious. The way, be sure you don't measure the bullpen dugout or the bullpen mound.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was another trick. That was another
Well, that skin's so soft to this day. I mean, if I'm ever somewhere where there's some gnats, and we've played in some hot climates, whether it was as a coach or whatever, you'd play in some hot locations and you start seeing some of those gnats, not ever like they were at Rimley's Point. But people are like, oh, they're trying out like, fabric softener sheets and stuff like that. And I was always like, guys, skin's so soft. They're like, how do you know? And I'm like, you have no idea what
you have no idea.
So I mean, those things are bad.
I got another good one too.
Yeah.
We went down to Florida, we had that real nice bus, okay. It's got College of Charleston on the side, TVs and everything. We go down, we're playing FIU. Well, we beat him the first game. So I said to myself, hey guys, get in the bus. I took him to the racetrack.
Yeah.
Okay. So the big old College of Charleston bus.
Again, NCAA, don't listen to this part.
Turn your head.
I get back to school, and God bless him, Dr. Lightsey, he was president of the school.
Yep.
He calls me up on the phone. Great man. I used to tease him. I used to tell him he had more degrees than a thermometer. He was a lawyer. He was a vet. He's one of the smartest men ever to come out of South Carolina. And he calls me up to his office. Somebody had called him from Florida saying that he's the College of Charleston baseball coach took the baseball team to a racetrack. He calls me into the office. He goes, Coach, you have a good time in Miami? I go, yeah, Coach. I said, it was pretty good. We took 2 out of 3. We had a good time. He goes, did you take the kids anywhere? I go, yeah, Coach. I took them to the racetrack. And he's there. He's there. And that's exactly what he said. He goes, well, Coach, next time you do that, let me know and I'll meet you.
That's hilarious.
But he was a big supporter and a great man.
I remember you talking about the bus there with the TVs and stuff. I can remember, it was not a College of Charleston baseball trip if the Godfather wasn't on at least one time.
Right. Silence of the Lambs.
That's right. There you go. 2 of my favorites.
But I remember one time, it was probably, I don't know, maybe the second year that I was there. And it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. Cause I mean, these are long trips. Like, especially when we're going down to FIU or whatever, or even Centenary or some of those. That was so long. But I remember it was like 3 in the morning or something. And the whole bus would reach a point where everyone's asleep and the TV's on. And I'm like, kind of tossing and turning. And I always sat kind of toward the front, and I get up to go, turn the TV off, and I get ready to turn it off, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, what are you doing?" His coach was still up.
That's right.
I think he was the only one still up.
This is another good one. I remember early on we're practicing. Richard Fraser's in right field, and he's got his foot and he's patting it on the ground like he's a horse. And then he goes, Coach, come here. And there was a little piece of a rock. I said, well, we're going to dig that thing out. Yes. You remember the rock? The rock was as big as the rock at Gibraltar. I said, huge. I think they still have that rock over at the new field.
That's hilarious. Oh, Mel and Clem were the guys that took care of that.
My boys.
That's it.
My boys.
And remember when Robbie Thomas decides to burn the infield that day because he had...
Yeah, you remember that?
Yes.
That's what I mean. That left-hander was whack.
It was hilarious. I just remember us, we were like, that's probably not going to work. Oh yeah, no, I think it just kills all the weeds. And we were like,
it's just going to kill all the underbrush.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Jeez,
God.
I tell you what, I should have.
What do you think of, Coach, when you go by, you mentioned earlier, I mean, when the stadium, when everything first started, wasn't the top of the top facilities, wasn't top of the top equipment, all the other stuff. But I mean, you developed it, you built it, you continued to build the program. it's got to be amazing when you go over to, Rimley's Point now or Mount Pleasant and Patriots Point and you see that program now. It's got to, I hope you feel a sense of pride about what you were able to.
I do. I get it. I always try to get over there as much as I can, but being so wrapped up with this high school baseball, well, when I go, I always shed a tear.
Yeah.
Because, and that's what I mean. A lot of them don't realize what the sacrifices guys like you and Moose made to make that happen to what there is now.
Yep.
And of course, Joey Foxhound, Travis Hound, all those boys are they don't let anybody forget.
Right. So, it's go ahead, Brandon.
No, go. I was going to say what's interesting is, you bring that up, John, and the parallel that kind of what we were talking about earlier about Coach kind of creating, we talk on the podcast all the time about kind of creating a culture. And the one thing that, like you just said, we didn't have necessarily the best field or, the best locker room or locker trailer or whatever you want to call it. But what we always had and is we always had Coach and we always had that family. And so, fostering that culture of it doesn't really matter what I have, but what I've got is a team that I know is supporting me and a coach that loves me. And what was amazing about you, Coach, was you let us go out there and play. Like there was never a fear of failing because we knew that you had our back and you knew, and we knew you were going to let us give it everything we had. And if we came up short or we did something wrong, that was okay too, because we could learn from it.
That's right. No, you guys always, even in the recruiting process, you find the kids that have that competitiveness in them, and not the silver spoons, because we surely didn't have any silver spoons to give out.
Yeah. Well, you brought a little bit of that Western PA mentality into that thing too. That hardworking, blue collar. Let's get to work. Let's not worry about anything else, and
and play with a chip on your shoulder. Go out there and beat the guys that have it all.
Yeah,
and really,
we had fun doing that. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Pissed them off.
So you mentioned, Coach, that you're doing some stuff with the high school teams now. What do you see different and similar about those, when you started coaching back in the 90s and actually before that in the 80s, but now today's player, anything that's...
because I'm real close with, the baseball family at Ashley Ridge. They got two of the best high school coaches in the state, and B.J. Bellish and Brian Givens. But they both played at Charleston Southern. But I tell them all the time, there is no way I could coach nowadays because DSS would have my number. You guys know my language. Yeah. My language itself would make me,
this cancel culture would not do good.
Oh
with,
my God!
One of your tirades.
I like to cancel the culture, all right. But then what I'm getting out of it is that when I'm working with some of these kids, and I tell you what. There is a kid here in Summerville, South Carolina, named PJ Orlando. He is a rising sophomore at Summerville High School, and he's already committed to Mississippi State.
Wow.
He's like the top. He's at the top 6 prospects in the country.
Wow.
But he is a anachronism. He is an old soul. And he is, he's going to be really something. And then the kids I'm working with at Ashley Ridge, if you get an old codger like me in to talk to these kids and let them know, hey, listen, nothing's going to be handed to you in life.
Right.
Go out there and compete, fight, not literally fight, but that every once in a while, that's not bad either.
That's okay.
But, compete and play hard, respect the game, respect the game. And that's what I'm trying to give back to these young kids that I kind of mentor.
Well, and it's one of those things we talk about on the show all the time is just the idea that, you're going to have failure. It's a game of failure. You better get used to dealing with that. Pressure's okay too, because that means it means something. You don't want to be in games where there's not pressure. If you're in those kind of games, then you're probably not winning that much.
Exactly. That's exactly right, John. If in order to succeed, you have to fail.
Yep.
And God knows baseball is a game where you fail 70% of the time and you're still considered good, because that means you're still batting 300.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
I try to teach all these young kids, don't be scared to fail. Right. Because success is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And love your teammates. Don't be jealous of your teammates. Love your teammates. Yeah. Embrace them. Have one common goal in mind. Sacrifice for one another. And if you do that, you will create a championship program.
Right.
This coming weekend, I got two kids. I give these kids nicknames. One of the names is Sticks, and the other one is Stallion. So I'm taking both of them up. They're going to a Clemson prospect camp.
Nice.
And I told them, you're going to go up there, and if you're not the first one on the field and the first one and the last one off the field, I'll have your ass.
That's right. Yeah, because your name's with them now, right? I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah. And they are two special kids, and they're rising sophomores, and they're going to be a big addition to Ashley Ridge baseball program.
So, Coach, not to get too far down this path, but you talk about creating that team and not being jealous and all that, and I think it's really, really heartfelt when I hear you say that. What do you think this new naming, license, or likeness and imaging is going to do to the team dynamic for sports for college athletes?
Well, on the college level, there's going to be, especially in football and basketball, not so much yet in baseball, but in football and basketball, you're going to have broad shoulders, because there are going to be some kids making millions of bucks off of it, and some kids making $2.50.
Right.
So I think that it's opened up a Pandora's box.
Agree.
And
imagine coaching that. I mean, you're having to juggle that,
Oh yeah. Right. I mean, you're going to have a slew of people interrupting and getting into kids' heads and saying, "Hey, it's going to be another challenge for coaches for sure."
I mean, Moose would have got the big endorsement. I probably would have got maybe some hot dogs at the convenience store down the one that you turned at to go to Rimley's.
Right there,
but you know what, John? Those fucking hot dogs are great.
They were good hot dogs, Coach.
I ate enough of them.
They were good hot dogs.
They were good. You guys wouldn't even recognize me now. I'm down to my plain weight in college.
What?
Yeah,
when we saw you, and this is another thing that I wanted to bring up, when we had that baseball reunion a while back down in Charleston at the River Dogs game, and all those players that came back, all the different years and stuff. What a cool thing to have, where, it was the first time you had the Charleston Baptist players coming in with the College of Charleston players. And what a great tribute to you.
To be honest with you, John, that reunion saved my life.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I had the stroke.
Yep.
And I was ready to pack it in.
Wow. Yeah.
But when all you all came back, that day is when I turned it around.
That's awesome.
I started good. I got started to eat right, starting to listening to the doctors, and then subbing every day at Ashley Ridge has kept me. I'm like that guy, that movie. That was that fucking movie where the guy aged backwards.
Oh, Benjamin Buttons. You're Benjamin Buttons.
You are Benjamin Buttons.
I am Benjamin Button. I am Benjamin Button.
Well, you always, but I think, Coach, and it's so cool to hear you say that, because if you had asked any of us and told us, hey, that would be the end result of that, like you all showing up, we would have all, we were all there as it was, but just the fact that knowing that is just makes it even more special.
I'm telling you, because if you remember, when that happened, I was 250 pounds, walking with a cane.
Wow.
Couldn't barely, walk 10 feet without stopping and catching a breath.
Yeah.
And that reunion, and plus I got the best son in the world.
Rock does all right.
Rock did.
He pushed me to get involved again, and because at that point I was thinking, well, I had a good run, and maybe there's another ballpark upstairs or downstairs.
Sure.
Upstairs or downstairs, wherever
50-50. It's a coin flip.
Thank God I'm a Catholic. I got purgatory.
That's right.
We got purgatory. I can hang my hat on. But that is now I go to Pivotal Gym every day, and have these young kids to mentor. And
didn't you have, I want to say, Coach, you had a golf team that you were helping, that if they didn't win the state championship, they at least came daggone close to it, right?
Yes,
it was a pretty good team.
Yes. My grandson played. Played all 4 years. And that was the Ashley Ridge golf team. Okay. And I'm still involved with them too. So I'm keeping,
Well, you look great. You absolutely look great. And, I tell you, it's one of those things. I was just thinking about this a little bit ago, is that I was asking you about what it's like to go back to the College of Charleston and see that, and just what that program's become. But you also have an indelible stamp on that Charleston Baptist program, Charleston Southern now. So really within a 20-mile drive, you have 2 baseball programs that you can go to and have to just feel amazing.
That's why he's up for the Hall of Fame. That's why he's up for the Charleston Hall of Fame.
Well, that's nice. That's nice, Moose. But I don't know what my chances are getting into that. That's a pretty exclusive club. But it's nice to be at least on the ballot.
I think you got a pretty good shot, Coach.
I think you have a few people who are voting for you. I know that we've been passing that link around to everybody who's, breathing.
Oh, God. Well, like I said, don't hold your breath, because, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah.
But you know, it meant a lot to be nominated, and I'm pretty sure I know who I got to thank for that. I think you guys know too.
Yeah.
Well, it's well deserved.
Tony Schufo. I think Tony.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking about that a minute ago when you were talking about Rock and being a son. Is Tony also is one of those that has been like son for so many years.
Oh,
I mean,
my God, I love Tony. He's and you know, I see him periodically, and he comes to some of the high school games.
Yeah.
So, Coach, would you come back on if we had you and Tony on and kind of have a episode where we reminisce a little bit?
Oh yeah, because I tell you what, Tony knows where all the bodies are buried.
Hey, he does.
He does.
Yeah.
Tony knows. He's the one. He's the one who's probably getting some hush money over the years.
Yes, I tell you what. And anything, the Tony really, really, really could have been the voice of somebody, because he was
no
really
question
good,
about it.
Really good on the radio and baseball and basketball and.
There's no question about it. He's one of the best when it comes to that stuff. And I think, like Brandon said, that's definitely going to happen, is we are going to get you and Tony on at some point just to talk about some of those, because Tony would be somebody who can spark so many of those stories.
Oh my God,
that,
yes.
You know, I mean, he's like a vault.
Oh yes. And he don't forget.
No.
That fucker's like an elephant.
Yeah, he gives you the details. He'll give you the count. He'll give you the number of outs and everything.
Yeah, man. He'll regurgitate every stat for the last 50 years.
That's funny. Brandon, as we're kind of wrapping this up, I was just thinking about some of my favorite kind of, I've got so many stories that have Coach in them, and man, oh man, I mean, we could go on and on about those. But it's funny. There's always one of the ones, and it's funny. We were talking about Robbie Thomas earlier. I was just telling a story not too long ago about we're playing Central Florida one time, and Robbie's on the mound, and you know how those little players that Central Florida had, they were just so scrappy and really just mischievous a little bit, like, and they were always dipping into pitches and stuff. And Robbie throws a curveball, and one of their outfielders dips his shoulder into it, and he takes off down the line. And I don't know who was behind the dish for us, but they call timeout, and they're like, no, come on back, So Robbie goes to get the ball from the catcher, from Benji, and he says, "You want hit?" He goes, "Get back in there. I'll hit you." Like that. Right. And so the umpire hears this. So next pitch, Robbie drills him with the fastball, and Robbie instantly gets thrown out of the game. Right. Well, here you come out of the dugout. You're like, "What's going on?" Going crazy and stuff. And the coach, you said, "He didn't do that on purpose." He goes, "Yeah, he did, Coach. He told him."
He did. I remember that. Yeah. And Robbie did the right thing. He should have hit some motherfucker.
That's right. That was always a great story.
I tell you.
But it just shows your instinct was to go out and protect him. It was like, protect him, even though he knew.
You knew, you still had everybody's back.
Hey, you know what? When you're my boys, good or bad.
That's it.
Don't matter.
That's exactly right. Well, Coach, we can't thank you enough for joining us.
No, it was
keep you any longer. But let me tell you, before we go, I'm so glad to hear that had that effect on you, because you've had such a positive influence on all of us. I mean, we really do love you both. I mean, you're somebody who just showed so much care for us at formative times in our lives. So it's really one of those things that I think it speaks volumes that everybody who has stayed involved in baseball, even if it wasn't at the high school level or college level, they're coaching their sons, they're passing that on, because just as you're telling those kids at Ashley Ridge, got to respect the game. And you showed us that. And I think that's one of those things that we can't thank you enough for, just everything you've done for us, because like you said, everybody has gone on and done something in their communities and stuff, and done well. You just had such a big influence on us. You really, really have. So we were glad to have you on.
It's been a real, you don't know how big of a treat this was. I mean, seeing you and Moose, and it just brings back so many good times.
Yes.
That I just am honored to be on this with y'all, and remember that I always consider you guys my prize jewels.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Well,
I love
you. We
y'all.
love you.
Love
and
you,
thank
man.
you so much.
Thanks for everything. I mean, thanks
we're
for
gonna
the
get you back on
opportunity.
the
Thanks
show.
for everything.
Yep.
And no, it was my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Love you.
All right,
Coach.
you,
love you too. Take care.
Take care.
Want to provide feedback or stay up to date with the show? Visit our Instagram page at Mental Advantage Podcast, or you can send us an email at podcast@mentaladvantage.net. To have John Cullen work with you or your team, please write to him at john.cullen@mentaladvantage.net. Thanks for listening to today's episode.